Hello, this is Bunting, and as you can tell, I finally upgraded my webcam to 1080p so you can view every inch of me in all of its high quality splendor. Besides that, you read the title. This is a Yojas Bad Habit hybrid trappy type beat with some weird trappy leads, some heavy 808s, plus some womps and wubs if you're into those, using our good friends Vital and some Ableton stock effects. Let's hear it.
See, I'm a ride or die chick. They want I hit you down. Boom, you broke up. Turn around and be a clown.
Okay. Hope you like that. If you did, please drop a like, a comment, and a subscribe because that would help me out very much. I would appreciate that. Plus, if you want this whole project file and all the presets in it, and all the presets and projects from all my videos and whatnot, you can get those on the Patreon. The link will be in the description or on screen. And who knows, if you support me on there, you might end up seeing a 4K resolution webcam for the next video. Okay. Anyways, drums. What's going on with drums? The BPM usually sits around 120, 130-ish, a little slower than we're used to, but that slow flow has some stank to it, I assure you. So as for the actual samples and groove, so if we look at this kick drum, you'll notice it is clipped to oblivion. So let's turn these down. And you'll hear that without the clipping, just a really low thumpy kick, right? This is generally the kicks used in trap overall. This is from my Waves pack. You can get it on buntingmusic.com. Check it out. But really any thumpy kick, any trappy sample pack kick will usually do. As for the snare, it's just a basic kind of choppy, trappy snare. But to process it, we added some drum full parallel. This is just a preset for a bit of compression. And I like to crank that makeup into this soft clip so it gets really loud and really distorted, which is pretty characteristic of the style. Another trick is I like to drag on the drum bus from these effects here, crank this drive up so it gets even more distorted, turn the damp up so it's not being low passed. Let's turn the decay down because we just don't need it, but this transient knob is where it's at. You see, makes it super crisp, clicky, and beautiful in case it wasn't hurting your ears enough. Okay, and then on both of them, I'm just adding a bit of extra drum full parallel compression, cranking that as well to soft clip it. And then it wasn't distorted enough because I'm mental. You could just crank these, and yeah, that's definitely distorted enough now. You can dial it back to your taste. These aren't the rules. This is just what I did, okay? As for the hats, you can have straight hats, you know, but no matter what, you can get a bit more stank and groove by just offsetting them to the right, you know, and this genre is all about stank and groove, so feel free to mess with that. As well as a little trick on rolls, have a little volume automation. That can be cool, I think. And yeah, hats are pretty basic, also from the sample pack on my site. Plus some more percussions. Don't be afraid to go crazy with the percussion. Really lay down and groove. You know, get a beat you can listen to on its own that goes crazy without anything. That's how you know you have a banger on your hands. Okay, let's actually show off some sounds now. I know that's what you guys like. And starting off, we have this big 808 with no effects. It's just a little sine wave. But we know a little sine wave can become so mighty in a short time. Let's initialize our preset. Grab our sine wave from basic shapes, and yeah, that's definitely a sine wave. At this stage, you can do a few things. The first thing is if you want this kind of kickiness at the beginning that you hear in a lot of 808s, let's get envelope 2, drag this down just so it's a nice pluck, and drag it to our pitch fat, right? That's where that kick comes from. It's a really quick pitch bend. You can change how much it does it. You can have a lot or a little. And also at this stage, it helps as we add more distortion to just control the harmonics we're hitting here. This looks complicated, but trust me, just add in like maybe a second, third. You know, these first few harmonics are really going to change how the bass hits, how the bass feels. My favorite, of course, is that third harmonic. It is beautiful, it's magnificent, so I'll just draw that in and move on to our effects. As for effects, I didn't do a ton in Vital itself because I was preferring some Ableton distortion instead, but I added a bit of this soft clip here, nothing crazy at all, and a bit of this multiband compression. I turned the attack up just because I liked how it sounded more, and the release down so it just gets even more slammed and stupid, because that's cool, I think. Okay, now for Ableton processing. Generally, the mindset in going into processing 808s is just use different types of distortion. You know, you're not limited to just saturator, to just one distortion. You know, look to see what Ableton has. There's pedal, there's amp, there's all sorts of stuff. But I settled on amp, right? And in amp, I ended up just using this default preset, turning on the dry wet. So it's just a bit crisp, not super slammed just yet. You can mess with these different modes, get different textures. You can turn up the gain, slam it even more, and mess with these kind of EQ and tone knobs if you're at it. One more thing I added was, get this, right? Another amp, just to slam it, crisp it up even more, because it wasn't enough for me. Then a bit of our glue compressor soft clip trick, just to cut it off. And OTT kind of rounds it out, gives it that, I guess, fuller character. I don't know, makes it a little crisper as well. But on the OTT, turn the amount down so it's not so slammed, and turn the time back. I mean, turn the time forward, so that also makes it sound a bit cleaner in the end. Yeah. But one more thing, I was liking the kind of just straight, like, boom, done 808. But if you don't want it boom, done, you can go back in Vital and add a bit of a tail on it. Usually you hear 808s kind of sustain afterwards, and you can get that with this release. And you can also make the shape a bit pluckier by cranking this decay and sustain down. Really just shape it to your liking, have fun with it. Okay, so up next is the weird lead. And for these weird leads, this should be familiar if you watched the last video. We're using a bunch of corpus, right? But without the corpus and all the effects, it sounds like, get this, just a normal percussion. Just really grab any percussion. You know, you can maybe get some more metallic, some more tonal, interesting ones, but any will do, because once we start adding these corpuses, it starts to carry the sound, right? So with corpus, let's just drag in a stock bare bones corpus and just crank the tune. Let's just automate it a bit, kind of moving forward, and we can just duplicate this pattern. You know, you just want it moving, so it's always morphing, always hitting different, always being weird. Maybe kind of smooth it out so it's not so jumpy there. But one thing to get it a bit more textured, less just ringy, let's turn this decay down. Beautiful, so it's not so sustained. And while you're at it, you can feel free to mess with Inharmonic, can kind of retune it. And that's about all I like to mess with corpus most of the time. You can also change the material it's resonating through. Oh, that's one's kind of fat. But I just settled with the beam on this one. And here's the one I ended up sticking with. Then, in case one corpus wasn't enough for you, we love excess in this style. I added another. And if you listen closely, this one is doing a kind of reverse movement. So it just gets it really weird. You have two different pitches kind of shifting in opposite directions. It's crazy. It's cool. They love it. And I cranked down this inharmonic and this decay to give it a bit different tone from the first. Okay. And to give it even more weird and metallic, a delay. So this delay trick, if you're familiar with rhythm and familiar with me knocking the camera down, you should know that if you change this mode to time, you can crank it really fast, if you catch my drift, and it becomes tonal and sounds very metallic. It's just a really cool effect. If you're insane, you can put it on ping pong. So it's stereo, but I'll leave it mono for now. And with this effect, you can just automate it around. So weird. So not only is it kind of pitching around with this just tone shifting, this new tone we introduced. Turn the feedback up, you can hear it a lot more. But on this repitch mode versus fade, it's kind of repitching the whole sound as well, which just makes it crazy. You know, it's that simple. And feel free to just mess with all these automations, be as creative or uncreative with them as you want. But when you're done with all of it, don't forget a healthy heaping of OTT, the MSG of EDM, and for this, full amount, output cranked, time cranked up. If it's down, it doesn't get that crisp, percussive character. In fact, it ruins it too much. And then the final ingredient to this mess that is this sound design is a frequency shifter. From stock, I just automated this kind of downwards to add yet another layer of weird movement. You know, we're stacking weird on weird on weird. You can probably guess the end result is going to be something weird. And of course, experiment with all these, add your own automations. If you really want, you can copy all of mine. But that is not very original of you, but I don't really care. I'm not going to tell you what to do beyond what I did in this sound. Okay. To process it, you'll notice that all these effects get a lot of, what is it? Just low-end action, low mid-range, which we don't want to avoid conflicting with the 808s. So I just EQ'd out the low end, change it to this lovely shape, kind of rounding it off, turn the frequency up. A lot cleaner in some ways. Also, it sounds like different now. Don't worry, I'll fix that. But this final trick, I think, yeah, I don't. Did I use all these? I might have. Okay, but another trick, you can make it a little wobblier with this auto filter. This is kind of an underrated thing on the auto filter. So we know we can like move it around, automate it. That could be cool, some resonance. But what I really want it for is this envelope, which makes it so anytime it hits, it automatically opens up or closes on the opposite. See? Put it low. And that is quite weird and wonky. So much so that it's only in our left ear now. What the heck have I done? Okay, so I didn't fix the sound fully, but this auto filter gives it wompy movement, which could be cool, and also cut off some of that harsh transient, because on loudspeakers, that might hurt some ears, and we want to be nice to ears. In case you want more corpus, there you go. I added more corpus, this time on membrane mode, and again, shifted the tune ever so slightly. More OTT, same business, amount turned down, amount turned up. And then to avoid that weird stereo-ness, I just took a utility, just Ableton utility, and I just turned on mono. I said, forget it, we get no width, you've been a very bad lead. But to introduce it right away, I put on wider. Yeah, just a bit more even stereo image. But you can keep it weird if you want, I just like it nice and symmetrical, nice and beautiful. Then a little bit of EQ8 to once again scoop out that low end from this new corpus and just clean it up, boost some of the good frequencies so it pops out of the mix. Okay, so that's a weird lead for you. So in case you want to go the extra mile and just make a percussion from scratch for this type of lead or just get some more control over the sound, I loaded in a Vital, put it on MIDI, same effects though. And as you can hear, it's already about there. Get a more percussive start for the sound, we can just get a plucky envelope. And that's already pretty close. And feel free to mess with your regular effects. You know, it's really just about getting like an interesting tone for your sound. Let's maybe get let's get this kind of high-endy one. Yeah. As long as you have this plucky envelope and make sure there's not a ton of artifacts, just keep it crisp, clean, you'll end up with a pretty percussive sound to process. As an intermission before the womps and wubs, you'll see I have this just acapella. Fat, right? But to get that like weird trappy acapella sound, first of all, sync it to the BPM, you know, sync up the beats to the grid. And from there, I pitched it down. You can also pitch it up. You know, it's all about just making it a little inhuman, a little alien, a little freaky like. But the processing is what's going to give it a lot of that character. And there's not a lot. Like everything else in this style, it's just going to be a ton of OTT, cranking up the time to keep it a bit cleaner. And then EQ8 to scoop out some of the lows, clean it up. Plus wider. To make it wider, it's nice to have a bit of stereo in your mix. Okay. Okay, vocals are lame. On to the womps and the wubs. So within Vital, let's just take a peek, a little peek. It is nothing crazy, if my memory serves me right. Okay. So yeah, no effects even. Without all these Ableton effects though, it's gonna sound like that. And basically all I was going for is just some type of rich sound with a bit of movement. So I just selected a square wave to give it, wait a minute, let me, help. I had a square wave to start off with. It's just a fat waveform, lots of odd harmonics, gives you more of that metallic sound, which we'll mess with more from the basic shapes. And then to give it some harmonic-y, screechy movement, FM, I selected FM from Oscillator 2, turned on Oscillator 2, turned the level down, so we're only hearing this first oscillator, and then transposed it up to get some more high-end harmonics. And to add that movement, right, without it, it's just static. We just add an LFO to the FM and select where we want it to move from. You know, the basis of the sound isn't that important since most of it is going to lie in these stock effects. As for these effects, the essential of any wub is going to be an auto filter, right? Because the auto filter, or just any low pass filter, what it does is it wubs. It's cutting out all the high frequencies, right? And when that moves over time, you get that opening wow sound. And I put that at the beginning of the chain just so we can have all this lovely ringing from the corpus shine through. Okay, so next in the chain, I just added a bunch of distortion to beef it up, saturator just to get it a bit louder. But where it really lies, and I probably should have turned this off sooner to be more objective with it, OTT business, is the corpus. And just to get extra weird and wonky, I mess with the pitch of the corpus, and you can mess with it, be creative with it, turn the decay down, keep it a bit cleaner, but I liked a bit of ringing on it, and the inharmonic down to kind of just tune it, you know, give it its own unique sound, plus one more OTT at the end to make it too harsh for human ears. It's like only dogs can hear it now. That's what we want. Okay, so for this second variation on it, I first changed it to bandpass mode, so you can just automate which mode selected here. And basically bandpass mode is going to give it that kind of squelchy character versus the wompy character. And I automated 2 peaks to give it a wow wow versus a wow. This is crazy stuff. Yeah, just simple stuff like messing with the filter, you know, can give you a lot of variation in the same sound. This next swamp, which you hear Yojas use a lot, just this style. A lot of its character is going to be coming from, guess it, guys, guess it before I show it. It will be coming from drumroll, whatever, a saw wave. Because saw waves, they just have that gritty texture, which sounds good a lot of the time. Don't need a lot. Don't need anything, in fact, because this is all Ableton stock. Just like our last womp, to get a womp, we must womp it with the low pass filter. Then to give it more harmonic, almost like a vocally character, phasers. You know, I'm noticing a suspicious amount of carryovers from our last tutorial. But basically what phaser is doing is we can drag it down to a nice frequency. It creates a nice resonance and formanty, growly character. And I just added another one on a lower frequency. Feel free to put it any frequency you want. Crank the pulse. Change it to space. Give it a bit more resonant, weird character. But I like the earth. And then another phaser just to beef it up even more texture. And at the end, I ended up automating this, but it's not showing through for some reason. but that could be nice for some extra movement. Here it is. Gives you that wheel. Yeah, cool alien sound. We like it. Okay. Up next, to beef it up, we all like beef. We distort it with the saturator. Just turn the drive up and get some OTT. Classic stuff. Another OTT. And notice the amounts and the time. You know, it's really just by ear, but yeah, I like to mess with the amount and time to keep it a little clean, a little dirty, a little bit of both, and that makes it fat. Like, OTT is hyped for a reason. Another saturator. I don't even know if I like this that much. Kind of makes it a little too distorted for me, but whatever. I use it anyway, so it's too late now. More OTT, more saturator, more OTT. I think you've noticed a pattern at this point. Plus, boosting the high end because it sounds better, I guess. And wider at the end to make it wide. Wow, this is crazy. Long story short, just put a lot of OTTs on anything and it'll become bigger thing, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, that's all the sounds in this tutorial. One last thing, you might have been saying like, oh, what was that crazy thing right here? That was just a little percussion fill. Hear them a lot in Yojas stuff, especially this little triangle hit. It's just nice. Maybe don't clip it as much as I did, but it's too late now. I'm at the end of the tutorial. Too bad. You know, and for these fills, just grab any real percussion samples that have a cool sound you like. And you can put them rhythmically, just 1, 2, 3, 4 at the end of your phrases for a nice turnaround, saucy thing. Plus, you might have heard this sound. Whoa, what's that cool sound? And that is just the feedback being automated up. Because when feedback's up, it just rings out way too much. So I use that as an effect, you know, almost as a similar fill at the end of the phrase for more sauce. But yeah, that's everything in this project. Once again, you can get it on the Patreon and support me and get more presets, more project files, and learn and stuff. One more thing, check out the website Bunting Music if you're interested in lessons from me, want to get some sample packs or just presets, all types of stuff on there. Check it out. What else? Discord. If you're into Discord, if you want to join an online community of dudes just like us, dudes from the channel, feel free to do that. We do fun stuff in there. It's cool to hang out. But I don't know what else to say at this point, except thank you for watching. Thank you for learning music. Music is fun. It's cool. That's it. Okay. Much love, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace out.